Hi, my name is Gregg and I'm co-owner of the High Strength membership page. It's a great way to get in shape. 40 minutes of workout a week is all you need, along with a good diet. You can't beat it. Anyway, I want to talk about nutrition right now. And first of all, I want to start off with saying that what the general diet recommendations are now, the standard American diet, it's been inadequate. It hasn't done the job over the last 20 or 30 years. If you take a look at the statistics, you'll see that obesity clearly is on the rise. We all know that, along with diabetes and metabolic syndrome. They all are correlated and working in unison to lead to a very diseased state in the United States and throughout the Western world in and of itself because of the same dietary practices. So the standard American diet, or SAD is another way of saying it, their general recommendations are roughly 15 to 20% of your calories on a daily basis taken in by protein, another 15 to 20% by fat, and then the remainder is by carbohydrates, both simple and complex carbohydrates, roughly 50 to 60% of the calories. Well, that isn't working. Once again, over the last 20, 30 years, that general recommendation has led us to the situation we are now. There's a different way of looking at it. There's a different approach, one that I found to be incredibly effective, and it's taking more of a, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, the paleo approach, a higher protein, lower carbohydrate mix. And let me explain why. First and foremost, the most important thing you need to do if you want to have a healthy body and a healthy life is to control your insulin levels. Research is showing more and more how high insulin levels have a big impact on diabetes and metabolic syndrome. Generally, what happens when you eat a high carbohydrate diet is that insulin is produced from the pancreas. We all know that. And when it does that, what it's doing is shuttling the glucose, the energy from the carbohydrates, first and foremost into the muscles, then a little bit into the liver as well. But then the remainder of it is being stored as fat. That's common knowledge. We all know that. The thing that I think most people don't realize, though, is that when it comes to fat loss, which is just about everybody's goal one way or another, everybody wants to see fat loss. When they cut their calories back and stick to a high carbohydrate diet, whenever the body calls on energy, it's going to call on the glycogen stores first. So even on a lower calorie diet, for example, just a general diet where the carbohydrates are still high, those glycogen stores always get full first. So if you exercise and then eat and refill those glycogen stores, and then when you exercise again, or even if you don't exercise and just sit around, the body's going to call on the glycogen stores first before it gets to the fat stores. In other words, it's a very difficult way of getting to fat and seeing fat loss. It's much better to have a lower carbohydrate diet just on that fact alone. But there are other factors too. Insulin has been called the Trump hormone because of the impact it has on the body in many different ways. Obviously, with fat loss, it makes it very difficult to lose fat, but also it has a whole host of problems with aging. For example, the reason why it's called a Trump hormone is that when insulin is secreted from the pancreas, it trumps all other hormones in as far as what the body needs to do to process things. It depresses human growth hormone, for example, and testosterone, which are very important for muscle building and for anti-aging properties. So in other words, by eating a high carbohydrate diet, keeping the insulin levels high, it depresses these other more important valuable hormones. And there's a whole host of them that get depressed, not just those two, testosterone and human growth hormone, but many others. Those are two very important as far as I'm concerned. But that's in essence what happens when you have a lot of insulin in the body. In short, it ages the body. Another thing that you're going to hear a lot more about as far as nutrition is concerned, and along with exercise, and we certainly adhere to it, the more we practice these principles, the better our results are, is what's known as gene expression. And really what happens when you exercise and when you diet, the choices of food you have and the choices of exercise you do, along with other lifestyle factors, what they do is they send a signal to your DNA, to your genes. And what it can do is actually shift gene expression depending on what you eat and how you exercise. As an example, insulin is the release of insulin over the course of time is a gene expression. And if you eat too many carbohydrates, what you're doing is you're sending a signal to the body, ironically, that food is plentiful. Now's the time to procreate. Whereas if you keep the insulin levels low, you're sending a signal to the body, you're sending a signal to your genes that times are scarce. Now's not the time to procreate. Now's the time to slow down our aging process so that we can live longer. Strange as it may sound, that's an expression, that is a gene expression just by some of the things that you eat. So it's certainly something that you want to be aware of, and you'll hear more about it. If you become a member with the High Strength membership page, I write and talk about it at length. I can give you greater detail. But understand, gene expression is a big part of what goes on with what you eat and how you exercise. Another thing that we do that I found incredibly valuable, I personally use it, is what's known as intermittent fasting. And that simply means that you skip a meal from time to time. Maybe you go without eating all day. It's not something you do for great lengths of time, but you just do some intermittent fasting. In other words, you don't eat the 3, 4, 5 meals a day that everybody recommends. You kind of skip a meal from time to time. That has the same impact, research is showing, as a calorie-restricted diet, which has been shown to be about the only method that they know of that they've been able to prove over and over again conclusively to slow down the aging process of the body. Upwards to 30 or 40% length in all the studies that's done. I'm talking about calorie restriction in that sense. Intermittent fasting is showing to have those same benefits. Now, the rationale behind that, Arthur Devaney thinks that a lot of it has to do with simply the fact that intermittent fasting lowers the insulin levels in the body, and that calorie restriction also lowers the insulin levels in the bodies on a more permanent basis, and that leads to longevity. I tend to agree with him. So I find that intermittent fasting has been a great tool for me as far as improving my health. I feel remarkably better eating this way. My tone and definition is a whole lot better. And here's the interesting thing, my strength gains are just as good as ever, and I don't have a protein shake after my workouts like everybody else does. I find that I'm just stronger, better, and leaner doing so. So that's another thing we recommend, and it's something else that you'd see if you join the membership page. So I encourage you to join the High Strength membership page. This is just a tidbit of what you'll learn, along with the right way to exercise. And imagine this, only working out 40 minutes a week and then tweaking your diet and nutrition pattern. And realize this, you don't have to deprive yourself to eat this way. It's not a calorie deprivation, it's not a deprivation of wonderful tasting food, it's just a shift, and it's working with the gene expression of your body, combining both the diet and exercise program that we've put together to create a fabulous body and to be healthy and to be able to enjoy life. Once again, thank you for your time, and I encourage you to check out our page. Thank you.